Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me for this interview. And first of all, I feel truly honored to receive the award together with numerous prestigious scholars in the field of remote sensing. So it was my greatest proud and also my biggest recognition to obtain this award. So first, let me start with the reason why I have always been fascinated by fundamental and applied science, right starting from my childhood. So since I was small, as inspired by my dad, I developed my interest in science and my appreciation in architecture. So we discussed a lot of interesting daily life examples and also problems related to various branches of science from the perspectives of calculation, design, and ways of having the optimized solution based on prescribed settings and constraints. So during the learning journey, he also shares personal biography of many prestigious scientists who have made tremendous contribution to the world with me. For example, Professor Chung Dao Li, who received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1957. And the story that he told me influenced me a lot, as I truly understand that the process of learning and conducting research is very, very long. One has to be very well determined and persistent when facing obstacles and difficulties. But at the same time, one has to be very humble to seek help from different professionals with a mission to synergize each other's strengths to solve a big problem in our world. On top, science is all around us, and the key task of being a scientist is to serve the mankind and benefit the community in the long run, though real scientific breakthrough could take a really, really long path and a long time. Now, in view of this inspirational and personal dreams, I received interdisciplinary training in mathematics, physics, environmental science, or even atmospheric chemistry, starting from my undergraduate studies. And also I got a minor in liberal studies. So you see my research is quite interdisciplinary. So currently, as an applied math scholar, so my research focuses on computational data science, which includes the development and application of remote sensing and machine learning algorithms in satellite informatics, environmental modeling, and geospatial analytics. With my admiration towards architecture, so I also extend my data analytic techniques to smart city development and also land use assessments in recent years. So actually, my research is quite interdisciplinary, and I synergize different knowledge that I gained from different perspectives to solve real-world problems. So that was some of my background and introduction. Okay, yeah, thank you for this very nice question. Now, so as for remote sensing, okay, so I got involved in this field since I was a postgraduate student, actually. At that time, I was pursuing my PhD degree, and the environmental pollution problems in the lower troposphere of Asia was extremely serious, particularly for excessive PM 2.5 and NO2 concentrations. So all this, as you all know, this could lead to devastating impacts towards human health. So I understood that relevant raw measurements of pollutant concentrations or, column densities are rather sparse and limited in time and space throughout different countries, different cities. So I start exploring the use of satellite data sets. For example, MODIS, OMI, Sentinel, so on and so forth. Now, and then having noticed that the team led by Professor Ronald Cohen from UC Berkeley, so his team has developed the Berkeley high-resolution NO2 product, so which combines information collected by satellites to produce high-resolution maps. Now, and then I start contacting him and collaborating with him and his team on remote sensing of tropospheric NO2 column within the Southern China domain as a case study. Then I personally extend the use of the attributes to retrieve or to estimate the ground pollutant concentration with the aid of statistical machine learning algorithms. So this was the beginning of my getting in touch with remote sensing. Another person that I should also express my heartfelt thanks goes to Professor Jun Kim from Yonsei University. So he was actually the external examiner of my doctoral dissertation years ago. He is the team leader of the geostationary environment monitoring spectrometer, so that we call GEMS mission in South Korea. Now, and it is of my greatest pleasure to join the science and validation team of GEMS, gain commendable opportunities to meet up with these professionals of remote sensing and satellite retrieval during the international conferences and meetings. Now, all this unique experience have truly broadened my horizon and understanding in relevant potential research areas. Recently, I also got the opportunity to join hands with the Cindy-Free team of the Royal Netherlands Meteorological Institute, which we call KNMI, on atmospheric sensor development, temporal and spatial data analytics, as well as the calibration of data sets obtained from different satellites on board or installed instruments. And I find all these tasks, no matter from GEMS mission, from Tempo, or from KNMI, all these tasks are very meaningful and useful, especially when we are trying to deal with the future and foreseeable environmental problems around the world, which is of paramount importance for maintaining a better future life. So that was how I got involved in the remote sensing so far. I think now there are numerous papers and key areas of remote sensing, right? For example, geometric reconstruction, image processing, algorithmic development, remote sensing applications, or even change detection. Or nowadays, we are always focusing on data fusion and data assimilation. So I think each has its unique feature, but in my personal point of view, there are three key qualities for a paper to be innovative and impactful as what you asked for. Now, the first quality that I think is the paper or the study has to fill existing research gaps and possess scientific novelty. Now, which is not easy, I think, because nowadays many papers, they may repeat some what people have done before, and then they try to apply to a new context. In that case, the scientific novelty is a bit low. Now, in particular, when dealing with a specific problem, say, for example, atmospheric or land use retrieval problem, now one shall attempt to establish an algorithm or a scientific technique to conduct the task. Certainly, this approach or this process could be based on the experience from previous research teams. But of course, to be a novel research, it has to have significant updates and modifications. To interpret such newly adopted approach to be impactful, it should be capable of extending to larger scale studies, no matter from temporal or spatial manners. So that was the first point. Second point, as I have mentioned just now, the newly adopted mechanism should be capable of spatial and temporal extension. Thus, it should also allow other researchers in the field of remote sensing to reproduce or replicate the entire process when they want to apply such an algorithm, to similar case study or another set of remotely sensed data sets. Therefore, clear and full description of methodology is highly essential, I think, especially when the research idea or the algorithm is extended to developing cities. Now, all of you know that developing cities now have limited and sparse raw measurement data sets. So if such process is smooth enough, a long-term and positive impact to the sustainable development of our world can be established. So that was my second point. Finally, to be innovative, the choice of topics has to be special or unique. For example, it has to synergize traditional points of views on remote sensing and the current hotspots, as well as the potential future trends of relevant areas. For example, low-cost sensors on developing cities, development of mastery architectural or urban planning strategy via the assistance of satellite observations, or even synergy of data sets from multi-sensors through statistical framework, as well as another nowadays hotspot, which we all care about, artificial intelligence, right? So AI is now a very hot topic, basically in all branches of science, and has received this year's Nobel Prize in Physics and share half of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry as well. So more and more innovation on the use of AI in remote sensing applications are expected in the future. And the team can include both natural scientists and social scientists when it deals with AIs. So that's why I think this is, again, is important, because it involves the cross-disciplinary collaboration of experts, which could lead to positive and huge social impacts eventually. So that was some of my personal thinking. So from my experience, I couldn't say it's a challenge because every submitted manuscript will have its own contribution and novelty to some extent. So otherwise, they will not submit to a journal. However, I think there could be some potential shortcoming. For example, the lack of new ideas and scientific rigor, because some studies simply adopted existing methodology and data analytic approaches, as what I mentioned just now, but they just apply the same way to a different spatial and temporal frame or different data sets, but they didn't change the algorithm. According to my best understanding, the environmental attributes and weather conditions, for example, the climate, right, climatic conditions in different cities could vary and change significantly. So the direct use and handling of satellite data set may not be possible. So this is a really important issue that I have noticed from my experience of reviewing manuscript. So I think one must understand the intrinsic environmental nature and characteristics before determining what data sets and what algorithms or even an improved algorithm to be used. Or it's actually necessary to impose sufficient updates or modifications to existing algorithmic framework before the direct usage. So that was my first point. Now, the second point might be the manuscript that being submitted might not have identified nor addressed the existing research gaps. Some manuscripts provide very, very meaningful and very fantastic literature review, in which I couldn't write a better literature review when I noticed it. But then the concerned authors haven't tried connecting their contributions on new ideas with existing research deficiencies. When writing the session on literature review, at the end of that session, perhaps it might be a good habit to think carefully about what are the potential research gaps on that study area and whether their current study has filled one of these gaps. It doesn't need to fill all the gaps because there's no perfect solution, right? All of us understand in the world when we try to solve a problem, there's no perfect solution. But at least the improvement and advancement should be made, though the actual impacts may not be easily noticed within a short time frame. It will be very interesting to outline some of the deficiencies being filled and what is being left for future studies of other scientists, other scholars. This could be very promising and encouraging. The third point that I have noticed could be the incomplete description of methodology or insufficient statistical analysis. Now, some authors may have missed out the technical description of their remote sensing algorithms. For example, the mathematical equations, the detailed steps of obtaining numerical results, or how they detect the changes. Now, in terms of statistical analysis, some manuscript might just adopt R square, right, or R value to determine the correlation. But the usage of only one statistical metric is far less than sufficient. That's what I always raise in some of my review reports to the authors. One should always try selecting various types of metrics for conducting statistical assessment. For example, choose one from mean error, mean square error, or root mean square error. Select other relevant metrics like percentage error or absolute bias, etc. So try to use different approaches and angles to assess how accurate the retrieval results or the remotely sensed results are. That was very important. Now, last but not least, I think some manuscript might consist of poor English, or they didn't provide full description of the technical terms. Now, in that case, it's very easy, right? Because the authors, I think they can simply conduct a proper round of grammatical editing before they try to submit their manuscript to a journal. Of course, they should also check and verify whether the formal definition of technical terms have been explained at its first appearance. That will help. Yeah, so all those are my personal suggestions, and I hope this could help to defeat the so-called challenges encountered by many authors. Yeah, I just try my best to provide constructive comments, hopefully which could help the journal as well as the authors, yeah, to enhance the quality of the manuscript. So I guess, as a faculty member in the university, so we are actually responsible for teaching, conducting scientific research, or providing service, or even sometimes we have to organize some outreach activities and even conference or workshops. So when deciding whether to take up the important and serious responsibility of to do review or not, right? In other words, so from any journal, okay? So basically, I would do the following. Now, the first point is to refer to the title and the abstract of the invited manuscript, which most of the journals will provide in the email very clearly what kinds of fields, what kind of topics. Now, if it is within my personal research expertise or even research interests, or it looks interesting, so I would definitely take up the responsibility. Now, because through reviewing, as what Steve Jobs has mentioned, one can stay hungry, stay foolish. So we can easily, stay connected with emerging technology, grasp important insights, and update technological advancement of concerned research focus. Now, all this could assist in my personal research and my academic plan in both short terms and in the long run. Now, nevertheless, if the manuscript is not within my expertise nor interest, I just worry I couldn't do a good job. So I actually worry myself will give a wrong review report that could affect the decision of the authors, as well as, that could impact the whole community. So in that case, I feel reluctant to take up the responsibility in that case. Now, and in terms of timing, I will spare several hours every week, basically, to review manuscript and treat it as a, personal entertainment or personal joy, or even reading habits, because that was very important. Just similar to reading the latest published research papers that are within my research expertise, or in selected journals. Now, I will be able to do so when I'm free from the teaching duties, administrative tasks, and also during light times, or during the interim break between every 2 classes, so on and so forth. Now, so that was the timing that I used to review the manuscript. Now, in terms of scheduling, So as I mentioned, when there are not much academic duties, so I can review more. But of course, if there are more duties from the university, more teaching that I need to do, for example, during the examination period or interview period, then perhaps I may not be able to review that many manuscript, and I will spare. But anyway, in any case, I will spare time to do it. So I will consider reviewing 2 to 3 manuscripts that are within my research scope every month, basically. And I hope that the manuscript reviewing process can be complete as fast as possible. That was really important because the efficiency is what I gained starting from being a child. So when we have some tasks on hand, we have to finish it efficiently. That was a really important attitude in all walks of life. And I'm always happy to review and provide comments. Now, let me answer about the advancement of science first. Now, usually, I think authors can receive many constructive comments during the peer reviewing process. Now, most of them were written in a professional manner, I believe, while some were from professors or researchers who have ample experience in the field or in the community. Now, these comments could serve as a igniter. So remind authors of their deficiencies in terms of presentation or technical perspective, help author to establish a broader coverage of topics, or even in the literature review, they can acknowledge the academic scholarship in relevant field. For example, including more details, explanations, useful references in the literature review. Now, this process, although is a small process, right? It's not very important, but it enhances the interaction and communication between researchers in an indirect manner. Now, when the authors of a previously published paper notice or realize that their papers were being cited, so what will you do, right? You will look at the paper, which paper will cite you, right? And then you go to the link, you look at the paper and then go through it. And then now if the 2 papers are of common interest or of common areas, they can contact each other, right? They can contact each other and work together on a global and interdisciplinary research project. Now, which usually nowadays we say the interdisciplinary project usually focuses on pressing issues of our living environment or something related to the sustainable development of our community. Then via this approach, some joint efforts with could be extremely meaningful with regard to advance the scientific understanding of our natural world. So that was my first point. On top, so I would like to share a well-known Chinese saying with all the audience. So 3 cobblers with their wits combined exceeds that of Zhuge Liang, which is a mastermind. Okay, so different reviewers may have different perspectives on the scientific novelty, clarity, and technological level of a manuscript in remote sensing. So they provide feedbacks from various angles and directions from their professional knowledge and sharing or even experience. Now, don't look down on this experience or personal sharing. This is very important for enhancing the quality of the manuscript. So especially when I was the author and I received different comments from different reviewers, I'm very happy because they could provide me new insights. They could shed light to my research. And of course, at the end of the day, when we try to convey scientific knowledge, algorithmic advancement, and potential social impacts of a research field to the general public, all this reviewing process will definitely help. So as a scholar, we should certainly listen to different opinions and welcome different criticism. Now, as for your second question, how do I feel my work of being a reviewer impact the field, right? So I couldn't say what I did. What I did is just a very subtle job. So I couldn't say impacting the field. I'm still very young, so I couldn't say, you know, it causes actual impacts to the field of remote sensing. There's still a long path for me to learn. But whenever I attempt to review a manuscript, I wholeheartedly and sincerely wish that the manuscript can begin with a global pressing issue in which the general audience, even you don't know anything about science, don't know anything about the aspect, will feel interested in it. Then, if it is an academic journal paper, it has to be gradually moving on to some technical things and scientific discussions, so that the scientific rigor and breakthrough can be maintained. Hopefully, the analysis conducted is not only limited to a specific case study, but can be generalized to solve problems of larger extent. This is very important as a scientific researcher, because we all, as a scientific researcher, we all want to serve the mankind and formulate a resonant and livable environment around us. So this is something which is actually the long-term impacts. But this long-term impacts cannot be conducted by only one person, but should be done by the entire group, entire community, and entire group of scientists. I couldn't say his tips, but maybe I just express what I think from my 2 cents. Now, first, being a reviewer has to be courteous. Okay, this is really important. You need to possess a positive attitude and show mutual respect to other scholars' work, but not, okay, when you receive a manuscript to be reviewed and then think the manuscript is not of sufficient quality. Now, you shouldn't have such thoughts, because that was what the authors have spent like a year or half a year to do it, right? So I usually, for me, I will start the review by appreciating what others have contributed to the field. Now, despite saying so, I think being a good reviewer has to be courageous. That means you need to be bold enough to step out of the comfort zone. For example, to raise appropriate and courteous questions in a polite manner with regard to several essential ingredients that must be essential in a good academic paper, namely scientific novelty, academic scholarship, clarity of methodology, manipulation of data and conducting the statistical analysis, as well as the potential extension and impacts of the current study in the world. Now, this was my first point, raising personal opinions in a humble manner, in a courteous manner. Now, second point is you have to have a humble mind and heart. Stay hungry to learn new knowledge. For example, acquire basic knowledge of that topic, which could be very focused. So sometimes the authors will write a paper or write a literature review on a very abstract topic that you have never studied before, but it's interesting. So usually the reviewers will take up the job of reviewing the paper. So you have a lot of things that are not sure. Once I'm uncertain of anything, I will try to search for relevant information and clarify myself. That is the process I did before reviewing the technical context of the paper. From time to time, also question yourself whether a specific review comment is actually applicable and necessary, so that you can keep your review reports, precise and concise at the end. Now, and then I think the next part is after you do the review, maybe the journal will ask you to suggest whether you should ask the authors to revise the paper or to directly reject the paper. So I think in terms of that, you have to think carefully from several perspectives, including whether the topic discussed can potentially lead to high impacts in the future society, whether the reviewed manuscript is valuable. By means of valuable, I just mean whether it really contributes to a specific scientific discipline. and also perhaps whether the results obtained are truly meaningful and interesting. Now, sometimes during my experience of reviewing the paper, the results obtained from experimental studies or from raw measurements could be very surprising. Now, by means of surprising, I mean it's not something new, but it's contrary. Okay, it's on contrary to our theoretical understanding that we have all explored from the books or from the past literature. Now, and then when I see this result, I will feel it's a very, very interesting time because it seems some historical moment has come, right? But in that case, you have to look at the assumptions and the settings of the experiment or the problem formulation, whether that is correct, whether that is obtained based on some prescribed assumptions. Now, all this could affect the results that you obtain significantly. So we have to understand the environmental limitations and constraints that cause such discrepancy. That was very important. And such process is actually very inspiring and very meaningful. And I always feel happy to see something on the paper is on contrary to what I have learned or what I have studied. I think the last point is the most important thing for all researchers, perhaps to be ethical. Now, to be a good reviewer, we should not share any part of the manuscript with the third party before its formal publication. Now, this is the rule of conduct that all reviewers have to be aware of once they have decided to take up the responsibility of reviewing a manuscript, because that is the promise. Okay, for example, if you are the reviewer and the journal trusts you a lot and they send you the paper of another author, but you send it to another person and then to read it or even to borrow some ideas from it, then the academic scholarship is being affected and the whole process here is being unethical. So I don't quite like this. So that's why this is some of the tips or hints that I would offer to the new reviewers of remote sensing. So yeah, that's some of my 2 cents. Okay, research and writing. Now, I think the reviewing process, sometimes I can identify the hotspots of research areas and potential future directions related to remote sensing and even the utilization of satellite data sets, how they analyze different data sets of different spatial and temporal resolutions. For example, nowadays, as I mentioned in the first part of this interview, we all mention about artificial intelligence and smart city development nowadays. These are some gimmicks for every scientific disciplines. However, the scientific framework or the actual implementation of these popular ideas are usually too vague. In that case, it's unclear. So via reading and synergizing the point of view and achievements obtained by various scholars, I can perhaps develop a clearer mindset of the concepts behind, as well as the use of these mechanistic approaches in real-life application. Now, some of the well-known examples could be land use retrieval, which is very important for developing cities for their architectural planning, sensor development, or even the calibration and data fusion of the data sets obtained from the polar satellites and also the geostationary satellites. For example, the one used by James mission, as I mentioned at the beginning, Sentinel, and Temple. So these global missions also focus on these aspects nowadays because they want to achieve a better understanding of the environment around us. So I wish to accumulate all this experience during my review and the new knowledge gained during the process. Hopefully, one day all these important, important assets could be effectively used in creating a better world, as well as in my teaching and all the sharing tasks, because sometimes I was invited to conduct some sharing with students, with general audience in Hong Kong, or in attending conference, so I can share some of these important insights with them. That was something about research. Now, with regard to writing, now perhaps the first thing I would like to mention is different authors write and present scientific ideas in different styles. Now, this is important. We have to appreciate and we have to respect. Now, some of them would like to write a more layman style writing article, right? So some of them like presenting things in an abstract but professional manner. Now, this could be attributed to their own personality, I think, because it differs from different people. Some of them would like to, lay down all the foundation, and then they go into the details bit by bit. Some of them would like to mention the details right away, right? So all this depending on personality. So each of them has its own characteristics and also advantages. Now, I appreciate all types of, all styles of writings, provided that the scientific ideas have been conveyed in a clear and effective manner, so that a good writer has to fulfill the following aim. That is, to fine-tune and adjust the writing style himself based on different contents and sessions of an academic paper, so that the actual contents that you want to write and you want to express can be easily understood and followed by the general audience, by the general public, or those who have never been explored to the field of remote sensing. So if they read your work, they can follow. They can at least have a clear mindset of what you're doing. Then it's actually a very nice piece of work already. For example, when we go to conference, we only have half an hour or 20 minutes for giving presentation. So what do you expect the audience could understand? They will try to get some take-home message. They will try to understand what you have worked on, but without understanding the technical difficulties and also the technical parts of your presentation. So similar to writing, when we want to deliver something, we just want to get some take-home message, deliver some take-home message for the general audience or the public, then that's far more than sufficient, because they remember something from your talk, from your sharing, from your writing. This could be very beneficial if they want to, have a better understanding of that area. So with that, I will regard all these unique characteristics as a satisfactory writing piece myself. So that was something I have been aware of when I try to write something.